In this video, I want to talk about Google and its smartphone lineup, that is the Google Pixels. I'll give you a little bit of introduction, then we'll talk about a little bit of history of Google and its smartphone devices. So there's quite a lot of history to understand. Then we'll talk about what are these Google Pixel devices, how are they different from the competition, and lastly we'll talk about Google's plan for their smartphone devices, that is the Google Pixels, and what it means to us as the end users, as the customers, because that is the important question, and I'm going to try to answer that and give you my opinions and my feedback. Let's get started. Hey, what's going on guys? Tanmay here. Welcome to my channel. I make tech gear reviews, unboxing, travel vlogs, general vlogging. So if you like such content, definitely subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you get notified whenever I upload the next video. So the reason for making this video is because Google has launched not one, not two, but three devices officially in India and many other South Asian markets this year itself in 2022. So this means that Google is taking other markets apart from US, Canada and UK seriously, and they also want to expand their smartphone lineup, that is the Pixel lineup, all across the globe. And this is a really good refresher because Google officially launched three smartphone devices in India after a big break, which is the last Pixel device, that is the Pixel 3 was the flagship, and I think there was around a 3 to 4 years of gap, after which finally Google has launched the Pixel 6a in around June-July of this year. And then we also got the flagship devices, the 7 and 7 Pro, which are the latest Google flagship devices, in October of this year. So that's really great news, and that is a very positive sign from Google, which means that they are highly serious and they want to expand their smartphone lineup. So that's the reason why we are talking about Google Pixels today. And before we talk about how these Pixel devices are different and what it means to us as end users, a little bit of history about Google and its smartphone endeavor. Now we all know Google as the big tech giant company, software tech company, but Google is also into smartphone manufacturing now, and it's not a big player compared to Samsung and Xiaomi. However, its history goes long back, especially when it first acquired Android. Yes, the Android operating system is owned by Google, and it bought Android in around 2005 for I think around 50 million US dollars, which is a huge amount of that time. But yes, Google fully controls Android operating system. So Google owns the software. Now Google started to venture into the smartphone manufacturing industry by first collaborating with other OEMs which were already manufacturing smartphone. So this gave birth to the Nexus lineup, I think back around in 2010, when Google collaborated with HTC to launch their first Nexus 1 device. Now the unique feature about this was that Google was not actually manufacturing and designing these devices themselves. That was done by HTC, but the collaboration was with Google, and that gave birth to the Nexus collaboration, where the software experience was provided by Google because of course Google owned Android, right? So this started this Nexus lineup, which went on for quite a few years. We got the Nexus 1, 2, we had the Nexus S, we had the Nexus 4, we had the Nexus 5. Now all these devices were not really designed and developed by Google. As I mentioned, they were collaborated with other OEMs like Samsung. There was HTC, which was a big player back in those times. We had LG, we had Motorola, and Google partnered with these companies. So the hardware and the actual smartphone was developed by them, but the software experience was provided by Google. So this is where Google was learning about the smartphone industry. And while these other OEMs were already very huge in the smartphone industry, Google was still not fully into the smartphone game. Now after the Nexus 7P, which was I think the last Nexus device, which was in collaboration with Google and Huawei, I think Google realized that they need to develop their own smartphone lineup and design and develop it themselves because they already own the software. The next thing that they wanted to do is to make their own smartphone, and this gave birth to the Pixel lineup. This was the full rebranding of Nexus devices, where now the Google will actually design and develop their own smartphone, that is the Google Pixel. They will also provide the software experience, that is the Android Pixel OS experience, Vanilla OS, which is zero bloatware, fast and fluid Android experience, which personally I love the most. And the one thing that was left back then was the brains of the smartphone, which is the actual processor, which was still manufactured by third-party vendors like Snapdragon, which provided the initial processors for all the Pixel devices. So this gave birth to Pixel 1, which I suppose launched in 2016, and then we got the Pixel 2, Pixel 3. Now remember, do note that all these devices were flagship devices, and every year Google launched one flagship device. And initially the market was very small for Google smartphones. They only launched generally in United States, they only launched in Canada, UK, and some other markets. They didn't focus much on South Asian markets like India. They did launch the Pixel 2 and 3 as flagships in India, but that didn't work out great. And that is because they were highly priced. These were flagship devices. They had the all the top notch features, and the hardware specs were at par with other flagships, as well as with the software experience of Google. And since Google was not mass producing these devices, the cost of production was high for them. So ultimately, of course, it was expensive to buy and own Google Pixel devices. And of course, the brand awareness was also not that great. So soon Google realized that there is a huge market in the mid-tier smartphone industry. So that's when, after Pixel 3, Google started to launch the affordable A-line series, and that was launched always after the main flagship next year in the mid. Okay, so Google launched their flagship device in October every year. So that was like the 1, 2 and 3. And then next year during the mid time, around June, July, that is when they launched the affordable line A series starting from 3A. Okay, now all these launches did not officially happen in India. We did get the 2 and 3, but after Pixel 3 there was no flagship in India till the Pixel 7, which is the latest Pixel. Yes, so Pixel 3 was the last flagship. After that we did get 4A, not the 4 in India, but after that we did not get the Pixel 4, we did not get the Pixel 5, we did not get the 6 and 6 Pro as well, which launched last year in United States, and that was a revolutionary device. We'll talk about that. But as I said, for past 3 to 4 years we did not get many Pixel devices officially in India and other South Asian markets. But now Google soon realized they wanted to expand their lineup. They learned a lot through all these different iterations of Pixel devices. They primarily focused on software, and soon they refined their hardware as well, to the point where now they have ironed out many of the nuances, many of the quirks, and many of the learnings that they got in all these yearly launches. And this is where Google finally completed the so-called vertical integration, which you might know Apple is being doing with its iOS devices. And by vertical integration I mean Google owned the software Android, Google manufactured their own, designed and developed their own Pixel devices. The one thing that was left out was the brains of the smartphone, which is the processor, which was still provided by third-party vendors like Snapdragon. Now Google last year in 2021 launched their Pixel 6 and 6 Pro with one of the revolutionary updates, that is, they launched their own processor along with it. So they launched their Google Tensor G1 chip, generation 1 Tensor chip, which was highly focused on machine learning, AI, and many of the image processing and software oriented features, which definitely boosted the Pixel lineup, because now Google controlled all three major aspects of a smartphone. That is, they control the software, they control the hardware, and they also control the brain of this smartphone, which is the main processor. So as you can see, over these years with the history of Pixel, it is definitely looking very positive. Google is also expanding in newer markets. This year, as I said, we have 3 devices suddenly launched in India officially. I personally own the Pixel 6a. So if you talk about me and my experience with Pixel devices, I had the Pixel 2, the smaller one, not the XL one. I used it for at least 4.5 years, after which I switched to Pixel 5a, which was not officially launched in India. I bought it off Amazon, and I think it was an imported piece, which I bought I think in Jan of this year itself, and it broke down on me. I made a separate video, and unfortunately I can't claim warranty over here in India, as I said, because it is not officially launched over here. So that is the reason why I had to switch to Pixel 6a, and I've been using this device for a few months now and I'm very happy. I am going to make a full review of this Pixel 6a device, as well as a separate dedicated camera review of this device, because for those who all know about Google Pixel phones, the most important aspect of these phones is the camera and its performance, because that's why you buy a Google Pixel. We'll talk about the special features about Pixel right now. But yeah, this was the huge history. Currently we are on generation 2 of the Tensor chip, which is existing in its latest Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, which has launched on October 6 of this year itself in India. So officially you can go and buy the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro. I would not recommend that. If you are someone who is new to smartphones and who want to get into the Pixel ecosystem, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, I would recommend to wait for the 7A or go with the 6A, because both of these devices are going to be amazing. 7A would probably launch next year around June, July of 2023. Alright, so now that you've got a basic history of Google and its smartphone endeavors and how Google has got into the smartphone manufacturing industry, let's talk about what these Pixel devices are and how is it a big deal, and why am I making a separate dedicated video for these Google Pixel devices, right? Because that is the crux of this whole video. Why are we talking about Google Pixel devices? So Google Pixel devices has three features or three traits which most smartphones and other company oriented smartphones don't have. Number one is the Android OS experience, the Pixel Android OS experience, which is the stock Android, the vanilla Android, right out of the box, no bloatware, and directly provided by Google. Now, as I said, because Google owns Android operating system, they have upper hand compared to other OEMs like Samsung, Xiaomi, Lenovo and all the other manufacturers, because they can provide the fastest software updates, which they promise for 3 years of OS update, and they also promise 5 years of security updates. Now of course these are also promised by Samsung and other manufacturers, but Google having full control of Android OS, they are always going to have one step ahead compared to these OEMs. So that's one part. You have a future updatability of this phone, so your phones are going to last longer. Trust me, I used that Google Pixel 2 for 4.5 years and it didn't lag much on me. The only issue that I was facing is after 4 years of heavy usage, the battery drain issue was significant, and I still use it as a spare phone. In fact, one of my family member uses that phone regularly, and if I simply change the battery, I think it will be as good as new phone. So these phones have a good longevity, and you can use these phones for years. So that is one major plus side of these smartphones. The next aspect about Pixel devices is what is called pixel only features. Now Google being a software tech giant, their magic mostly is on the software side. Yes, their hardware is also evolving, but the Google prowess comes from the software side, which means that most of the features, most of the unique features which are unique to only Pixel devices are software oriented features. Just to give you an example, they focus a lot on machine learning, artificial intelligence and image processing, which gives you features like face unblur or photo unblur, which sounds very trivial, but there are a lot of algorithms and a lot of software processing going behind the scenes, which is also capable and which is also possible due to these tensor chips that are home developed by Google itself, which simply takes a blurry photo and unblurs it. It just applies AI and machine learning and just unblurs it, so you never have to take a blurry photo again. This sounds very simple, but it is very difficult to implement software wise. Some other features is like they have their own recorder app, which while recording your speech also converts this speech to text in real time, and you can store it as notes. So that's amazing feature to take notes of. Then we also have top shot, which basically means whenever you click a photo, it takes multiple shots and recommends you the best shot out of these multiple options. So that's amazing. That's again based on AI and machine learning. Talking about image processing, we have astrophotography mode, which is unlike any other night mode or unlike any other astro mode I've ever seen. Basically, you just take this smartphone, put it on a tripod, point it towards the sky and towards the stars, make sure it is stable enough, and you just turn on the astrophotography mode and hit the click button, and you get an amazing astrophotography shot, which you'll feel is taken on a high-end DSLR. Trust me guys, astrophotography on DSLR is very complicated. You have to put in a lot of manual settings, and this is done simply by the click of a button, all by using software, AI, machine learning. So that's a huge plus for novice people and regular layman people who don't have a lot of technical knowledge or who don't own DSLRs and who want to do astrophotography or night photography. This phone is perfect for that. It has amazing portraits, etc, etc. I can go on and on about the camera. I'm going to do a separate review on the camera itself where I've tested all these things. So that's coming up very soon. Definitely subscribe if you want to see the camera performance separately. And the list goes on. One amazing feature or one one thing to note that these software oriented features get on updated, which means today if you have 10 features on your smartphone, maybe next year down the line you can have 15. That is something called as pixel feature drop, where some new features which are software oriented come down to the older Pixel devices. So let's say there is a feature which is there only on the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, which is a software feature. It mostly will come down to Pixel 6 or even Pixel 5 depending upon its compatibility, and that is amazing because essentially what is happening is your phone is getting better over the years. Generally the trend is that the phone for the first few years works perfectly fine, but then it slows down. There are a lot of bloatware being added, but these devices are opposite, where they get better over the course of time, and that is very very unique to Google Pixel devices. So now coming to the last aspect is of course the Pixel camera. So the first one was Android OS and its vanilla Android experience, Pixel OS experience, the 3 years of OS update and 5 years of security patches. The second was these Pixel specific features. Okay, so this is Pixel only features. And thirdly is of course, not so surprisingly, the Pixel camera. If you're buying a Google Pixel, it's most likely you're buying it for the camera experience. And to simply put it, this is a no nonsense point and shoot camera where you simply point to the subject, click the photo and let the smartphone do its work. Let the smartphone do all the smart work, the AI, the ML, and you get the perfect shot. You don't have to be worried about getting a blurry shot or getting a poor shot. It's always most likely going to be an amazing shot, provided you have to do the composition. That's about it. Videos are also becoming more and more better on these devices. I've noticed there is a significant improvement on the 6 devices compared to the 5, because I own the 5A and now I have the 6A, so I can compare. And the 7 and 7 Pro are supposedly having much better video processing features, so even that is really good that they're improving that one side which was not really great about the Pixel camera, the video side, which is improving significantly. So that's great to see. So these are the 3 things that define Google Pixel phones. And now talking about the Google's plan for smartphones in India and what it means for us. Well, all these things clearly mean that Google is very serious about its Pixel smartphones, and they also want to expand in multiple markets. As you can see, we have 3 smartphones in India this year. We definitely may have more than 1 or 2 smartphones next year. I'm at least hoping for that, because there is a huge demand now and huge awareness of Google Pixel phones. Earlier the case was that Google Pixel smartphones was not very famous or not very popular option in the entire Android space, because that was saturated by all these Chinese smartphones as well as premium smartphones from Xiaomi, from Samsung, from OnePlus. These are very big players when it comes to the volume and sales of smartphones. Okay, Google is still very tiny small player, but now in the last couple of years there is a shift and there is more brand awareness for Google Pixel devices, which is why I think that Google has a very good opportunity here, and they also know this. So that's why they are also heavily trying to expand to multiple markets. What does this mean for us as a customer is the final question of this video. And to simply put it, more the options, the better for the end user, for you and me. So previously in the Android world, if you're looking for premium smartphones or high-end smartphones, the fewer options that we had was Samsung Galaxy series. Of course, it's very high-end, very expensive, and premium devices, definitely high quality in most of the aspects. We also have Xiaomi flagships. We have OnePlus flagships, which are now pretty much in the expensive category. Initially OnePlus was quite affordable, but now they're launching flagship devices which are quite expensive. We have options from Motorola, we have options from Lenovo, LG, etc, etc. But all these different manufacturers, when you compare with Google smartphone, lack one thing, and that is that premium or the first hand Android OS experience. Because Android is controlled by Google, they have the upper hand. And now because Google is also manufacturing their own processor, they can utilize this software and hardware vertical integration in the most efficient way, in the best possible way, to give you that premium experience. Just like Apple does it with their Bionic chips. They make their own silicon for their own iPhones. They also own the iOS operating system, which means they've been doing the vertical integration for far too long, and they have refined that to the point where iPhones pretty much are one of the biggest sellers and the flagship devices when it comes to iOS environment. But when it comes to Android, Google has been trying to mimic that, Google has been trying to imitate that for the last few years, and they are definitely doing a great job at it and progressing quite nicely. So yes, all this means that Google is definitely geared up and taking Pixel smartphones seriously, and so should you and me. So if you are into the market and looking for smartphones which are having great camera, first in class Android OS updates and experience, and some unique features which only these Pixel devices have, definitely check out the Pixel lineup. And I genuinely believe that Google is doing something great in the Android market space. Alright, these were my thoughts and these were my opinions, and yeah, I do sound a little bit biased, I know. Personally, I've been using Pixel devices for far too long and I love that, and I don't think I can go to any other smartphone in the Android ecosystem because I'm so hooked on with the Pixel devices. And that's the reason why I even upgraded from 5A to 6A, even when I had the option to, try out some other phones. But as soon as my Pixel 5A broke down on me, I just bought the 6A. And lastly, just quickly, if you are really interested, do check out the 6A. That is running some amazing deals, and it initially launched at a price point of 40,000 plus, but during the offers you can get it as low as 25,000, and that's a really great price point for this mid-range phone. Alright, so these are my opinions and views about Google and its smartphone Pixel and how it is slowly getting into the Indian market and expanding their Pixel lineup. What are your thoughts? Do you own a Google Pixel phone? If you own it, let me know in the comments. What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? What are your opinions about Google smartphones, and did you know about Google Pixel smartphones, or was this your first experience with it? Definitely let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I am, as I said, going to make a full review about the Google Pixel 6a and also a separate review about just the camera because I've done quite a lot of testing and I have some thoughts about it. So I will put out that video very soon. Alright, this has been it. This is Tanmay Sakpal signing off. See you in the next one. Peace.